Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We begin this scene in Lady Sheridan's hotel room. Well, and she will be waiting for a visit from Rick.
Meanwhile, Rick will be driving his station wagon into the parking lot of the hotel and parking it. And before we begin, I will be making a quick roll to make sure I'm not completely out of it for the scene.
What happens if you botch?
If I botch, I believe I'm still in a nightmare.
Oh, cool.
I did not botch, so I'm okay. Rick will make his way into the hotel and proceed up to the familiar room that he's been in once before and knock on Lady Sheridan's door.
And Lady Sheridan will answer the door. Good
He'll
evening.
nod to her. Good to see you again.
Would you care for a seat? She gestures towards the seating arrangement near the window.
Rick will smile and come in and have a seat, looking around to see if Limey's already here or not.
You may notice that one or two of the things have changed. Nothing major, but some of the random ornaments have been replaced by other random ornaments.
Um, yes, so a cab will pull out up outside, and Limey will step out wearing a dark grey suit and usual hat, and sort of stroll in through the lobby, head up the stairs, and there's a knock on the door.
Are we expecting someone else?
Yes, I invited our local Harpy.
Ah, and she will open the door. Good evening, Mr. Limey.
Evening, Lady Sheridan. Lovely to see you again. And he kind of sort of steps inside, sees Rick. Mate, how's it going?
And she'll close the door and lead the way over towards the seating area.
He'll sort of unbutton his suit jacket and settle himself down into a seat and kind of scrunch up a little bit. So,
And she'll find a seat as well. They're all kind of nicely seated.
Well, thanks for coming, Limey, and thanks for having us, Lady Sheridan.
my pleasure.
Rick will sort of sit up in his seat, ready to begin business. Do you remember what we discussed, Lady Sheridan, about your friend in New Orleans?
Yes, and the difficulty in finding anything out about her.
Rick sort of closes his eyes and nods a bit. As it turns out, the contacts that I inherited from the late Primogen aren't located where I had hoped. However, I can still allocate my resources to attempt to find your friend. I'm willing to do this, but I do want something in return if I can find her.
I
Limey kind
can't
of
understand. Pardon?
so Limey kind of nods approvingly.
I quite understand. Of course, quite what you might receive in recompense will depend on the results.
I may interject. If it's an extensive use of influence, no matter what he finds, you'll owe him a boon uh, comparable to the amount of effort he put into locating this friend of yours.
I was going to suggest a sliding scale.
Well, unfortunately, that's not the way the boon system works, Lady Sheridan, and I'm sure as well you know.
Well, if he is unable to find anything, he needs an incentive to succeed.
Rick will sort of hold his hand up. If I do allocate my resources towards this, Lady Sheridan, I assure you I will find something. Whether she's gone, whether she's deceased, or whether she's still alive and waiting to hear from you, I will find her. It will only be a matter of time.
No, I'm sure unless Lady Sheridan is happy to divulge, and I don't need to know about this particular friend, but will this be an extensive use of influence on your part, Rick? Will this require a certain amount of exertion from you, or is it something you can do in your sleep?
You're aware that I'm a writer, Limey?
Oh yes, of course. Familiar with your work?
A large part of my success comes from the help of my secretary, who is very well connected, very personable, like yourself. It will completely indispose her.
In that case, Lady Sheridan, it would be a major boon that was in order.
I will agree to a major boon should you succeed in locating her.
No.
If you fail in succeeding her, in locating her, then I'll agree to a minor boon. In order for me to count her as located, I must have a phone number, her evidence of her death, or her presence.
And these are the terms you'll be finding: her presence, her proof of her death, or her phone number. Any of the three above.
As long as I am able to confirm that it is her phone number by her answering it.
Now, and he turns to Rick and he kind of steeples his fingers and says, if these terms are agreeable to you, then beyond me to tell you how to handle your affairs. However, traditionally, this would not be a sliding scale. It would be a major boon that you would be owed. However, if you would agree to the terms of the sliding scale, then a minor boon, if you don't turn up with anything, would be appropriate, I suppose.
Rick will look to Limey as he speaks and nod, then look back to Lady Sheridan. I have a counteroffer. I already know what I want from you. If you give me this, I will find what you want. And if I do not, I agree to owe you a major boon.
What is it that you want?
Rick will sort of pause and smile. I've been told the Ventru possess a knowledge I want to learn. The knowledge of fortitude.
Interesting.
I may need to put some effort into acquiring this knowledge first, but I will agree to those terms. I am not able to achieve that at the moment, but I will do my utmost to do it as soon as possible.
This is becoming an incredibly long-term deal. He kind of turns to Rick and he says, "Oh, Rick." He kind of sort of seems to think it over for a moment. And he says, "With apologies to yourself, Lady Sheridan, I would say that there are plenty of capable kindred already in possession of the knowledge of this discipline, who would be far easier to acquire it from."
Unfortunately, I don't know these other kindred, and I don't have something, or I'm not capable of something that would indebt them to me.
That's the beauty of a boon. It doesn't need to be paid back instantly. Future negotiations can be made. hence is the beauty of the bone system rather than an immediate transaction.
I prefer to know how I'm going to pay my debts before I fall into debt.
Please continue.
I agree to these terms, provided you will allow me a few weeks to gather the skill in myself.
That's acceptable.
Out of character, I need to wait for the next XP drop to be able to buy it. That's all.
I thought so. Rick will look to Limey to basically see if the deal is complete.
He seems to sort of mull it over for a little while, and he says, "So essentially, this is a transaction of major boons between the two of you, with the terms already agreed upon. You wish to learn the knowledge of fortitude, and you, Lady Sheridan, wish to locate a friend. And you say it's on a sliding scale. Now, do you agree to this particular term, or would you prefer it to just be an out-and-out major boon, Rick?"
We agreed to the counter-offer, that I would teach him fortitude one way or the other, and should he not produce the desired results, he would owe me a boon.
It seems a little bit complex for my liking, but
Indeed, and I will quite happily lower that potential debt to a minor instead of a major.
oh, well, in that case, I mean, these terms, well, I mean, I'm only the Harpy, it's only my job to advise and record boons. Perfectly acceptable on my end.
Excellent.
Rick smiles and nods.
Limey pulls out a small black notebook and proceeds to jot a few things down.
Is there anything else you wanted to discuss? We'll say this to Rick.
Rick will lean on the armrest of the chair he's sitting in and sort of think for a moment. Is there any information that you could give me about your friend, other than her name, that might help me in my search?
I did tell you her clan and her age.
Anything that might help in a search through mortal avenues.
She has a number of tattoos, most notably one on the left shoulder. I believe they call it a sleeve.
Rick will also take out a notepad and a pen and begin writing this down, as Limey's also over there writing.
It was quite colourful and mildly graphic.
Graphic?
Parts of it were somewhat rude, but I can't quite recall the details. I did ask her to keep it covered the majority of the time.
By graphic, do you mean nudity?
Yes.
Okay. Rick will write that down as well. Do you know anything about her mortal family, where she might be staying, where...
I don't know a great deal about her mortal life, but I do know that when she was embraced, he was following a singer and crashing at his pad. So I do not think that she has particularly strong connections to her family.
Rick will nod. What about her contacts, her friends? Do they have mortal holdings?
Unfortunately, I rather think her sire might have had just as much reason to depart at high speed as I did.
I see.
And it is possible that she's found him, but I don't know much about him beyond his lousy attempt at a music career.
Well, this information might ease the search.
I very much hope so.
Either way, I will find what I'm looking for.
I'm glad to hear your confidence.
Oh, if you could both keep me informed about the outcome of this particular deal, if you, Rick, do end up owing Lady Sheridan a minor boon, if you could just let me know so I can keep it on record, that'd be much appreciated. It makes my job a hell of a lot easier, you know.
Rick will nod to Limey, of course.
Groovy, man, groovy. I dig it.
In case you do happen to be curious, I'm attempting to find a brochure, in fact.
Oh, really? Anyone I might know?
I severely doubt it. She was a fledgling, as I knew my former city.
Good luck finding her. I'm not gonna lie, having done one myself, Bruiser fledglings are prone to stupidity.
Her sire certainly was.
Hmm.
But every individual is different.
Oh, well. Birds of a feather and all that, Lady Sheridan. Birds of a feather.
I don't know. I have found yourself and Ghost to be quite able, and significantly more so than the gentleman I mentioned.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Lady Sheridan. Your gratification is much appreciated. But, yeah, so, anyway, this aside, I've been out of the loop for a little while. I've been focusing on my mortal holdings more than anything else. Anyone care to fill me in on any current events happening within the city?
Rick will look to Limey and then to Lady Sheridan. Have you seen that man you mentioned before that's staying in the hotel?
Not since I last met you.
Rick will sort of frown grimly.
Yeah, what happened to the Vice?
I have no clue. He's presumably around somewhere.
You should be aware, Limey, that this man that she's speaking of, I suppose you've met him too?
Oh, yeah. Seemed like quite an amiable chap.
He has failed to present himself to any of the authorities in the city. I'm giving him a final opportunity before the prince takes matters into his hands.
That is
He
quite
hasn't
concerning.
contacted me yet.
Well, this will certainly prove for some interesting gossip around the court, I have no doubt. Unpresented Malkavian running around the city. But,
And an unpresented caitiff.
hmm,
At least I believe he was a caitiff.
I was under the impression he was of the clan Malkav, but there we go.
No, another one.
An unpresented caitiff. Oh, interesting. Anyone know his name?
Well, I'm not sure that the one he told me is the truth.
And where did you run into him?
In this very hotel, it does seem to be an attractive one to kindred.
Oh, you're saying. Oh, this is where you met. Oh, so you weren't talking about the Malkavian we met in the first place.
No,
Is he presented? Has he presented himself? I got confused.
not to the best of my knowledge.
Hmm.
I haven't met this
Educate
kid yet.
him on the attempted to educate him on the traditions and to recommend he seek out the prince. Proceeded to steal some of the hotel's belongings and abscond.
Oh.
I rather hoped that he might show up at some point, one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, we do have rules for a reason, especially with the Sabat running around.
Indeed,
For
I
protection,
gave
as
him
much as
those rules.
pardon me.
I gave him those rules and also wrote them down. He
And
didn't
this is the
take
case.
them well.
And this is the case if you're referring to.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
he did at least take the rules with him.
The Sabat running around the city, it's much for his own good as anybody else's that he make himself presented as soon as possible.
Indeed. But I'm not responsible for every wayward stray that crosses my path.
No, certainly not. Only responsible to the city as a whole.
Out of character, when I managed to get hold of one of the vampire STs that is not half asleep, because clearly way past his bedtime, my plan is to get hold of the video surveillance from the hotel and give the picture to Frederick. He's a scourge.
Do you know what circles this caitiff runs with? Know what he does?
I have not the slightest clue.
Wonderful.
Found him seemingly inebriated after having drunk of someone that was presumably likewise,
Oh, wonderful.
and he seemed entirely unaware that there might be anyone else like himself.
Well,
At least that was the impression he gave me. And as he took the list of traditions, and most Sabbat or Anarchs would be unlikely to bother to do so, I assume that he is entirely ignorant of matters, but that does not forgive him when he has been informed of what he should do.
no, certainly not. Maybe myself and this chap should have a chat when he turns up. Let him know the score, as it were.
Well, if I see him, I shall not hesitate to inform someone of his presence.
Hmm. Hmm. Caitiff. What are you going to do, eh? He said rather judgmentally. So, other than this unpresented caitiff running around the city, is anything else been happening?
Not since the last time I saw you.
Oh, well. Oh, and I'd appreciate an introduction with this Frederick chap you keep mentioning.
I will do my best. He has been rather busy of late. But
Well,
I have a few things I want to discuss with him as well.
And who is that?
the Ventru, Lady Sheridan's friend.
Oh, I see.
Rick, heard any more from the Tremere regarding your little chat that I so rudely interrupted the other night?
He smiles and shakes his head. Unfortunately, I've been a bit busy. Well, I've been having to deal with my ghouls lately. I haven't had the opportunity to invite the Tribune over.
As long as we maintain sufficient communication throughout the city, we don't want to be going back to the way things were before now, do we? It's, all of us divided in the face of the Sabbat. Maybe somebody should get on to Mr. Peck about organising an Elysium. Maybe.
It's a good idea.
Perhaps.
Well, Lady Sheridan, Rick, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me along. I'll get out of your hair. I'm sure you both have busy evenings ahead of you. And he stands
Rick
up
will,
and kind of buttons his suit jacket, straightens himself. And,
Rick will stand up with Limey, offer his hand to shake.
yeah, Limey will shake his hand back and give him a sort of small smile, like, right, mate. And he'll tip his hat to Lady Sheridan. And
He will nod in response.
he will slope out of the room.
Rick will nod to Lady Sheridan respectfully. Good evening.
Good evening.
Before turning and following Limey out of the hotel room.
And she will move to see them out the room and close the door behind them. And there we shall end the scene.